Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Roger Smith calls himself the most unlikely leader. Today, we'll find out why. Roger, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me with you.
Now, Roger, your book is titled The Most Unlikely Leader, and you look like a leader, so why are you so unlikely?
Well, at the age of 15, I was a drug addict, I was homeless, and a high school dropout. So
that's all?
That's all.
Okay.
That's it. So, prospects for a bright future look pretty dim at that point. It's the book is actually my journey from there, and actually before, and moving all the way to becoming CEO of two of the most financially respected insurance companies, in the United States. So it has been a journey. It has been a long journey, and it's one of perseverance and quite a few other things.
Well, as I told you before the show, I really liked your book. It gave me the feeling of many of the success books that I had read throughout my life and that we've had on the show here. And it also shows us that there's not just one path to success where you're born into riches or you go into a field and instantly you're a great doctor or a math teacher, or you happen to be an entrepreneur who's very good. You literally, I guess, should start below the bottom and worked your way up to ground level, and then from there became the leader. So it gives us all hope, that's what I'm saying.
You know what? Bill, that's the purpose of the book is, maybe to give you, what I hope is people would read it and go, well, if this guy can do it, then I can do it, That's exactly what we're hoping. And again, you're very honest to share all this with us, and there's a lot of great stories in the book. Now, you give a lot of credit to your stepfather, and at some point he saw that you weren't doing too well in life, and he said, what about selling? Was that how he approached you? Yeah. I was going nowhere. And he said, well, listen, I'm in this insurance company and I think you would do really good at it. And, why don't you join me? And in the beginning, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to embarrass him. And I actually took a job for another insurance company. And I remember I lived in California, and you had like people in apartments where their door was a glass door. And I remember trying to give a presentation through the glass door because they wouldn't open it, and me thinking, man, if this is what it's about, I'm not going to last very long. But I was fortunate. The company that we were representing worked with leads, and it was leads with union members. So it was a path into the house.
Now, for those of us who aren't into selling, when you say a lead, what is that? Is that someone who calls in and says, gee, I'd like to know more about your product?
Correct. Or somebody that fills out a card and sends it back in.
Okay.
Exactly.
Aside from everything else, you freely admit you were literally terrified of selling. Not just that you didn't want to do it or you didn't like the job or it was too much work. You were one of those people, and many of us are, that you didn't want to get out in front of someone, try to sell them something, and it made you very nervous, and you'd probably rather do anything else or be a parachute jumper than do that. Did I get that correct from the book?
You got it exactly. So, there's a part in the sale when you get to the close. And when you get to the close, you're supposed to just be quiet. Like you give the closing line, and the pressure builds, and whoever talks first is where the sale is made, supposedly. When I would do the closing line, the back of my neck would start to shake so hard that I literally thought that people thought I was having some type of seizure. I mean, I was so bad at this. And, I guess the lesson in this is that for me, all of it was learned behavior, Bill. I wasn't a naturally born salesperson. I wasn't a natural born leader. I wasn't a natural born CEO. It's all learned behavior. And because I wasn't very good at it, I just knew if I was going to succeed, that I was going to have to work harder than anybody else around me to achieve that success.
Well, that's what our show is all about. And we want our audience to know that, A, you can learn it. You can do better. You are a perfect example, and you're very gracious to share all this with us. And I'm getting the feeling that you, in the early days of your selling career, you were like most of us when in school they say, on next week, we're all going to give a speech, and we slowly die. And what do they say? Your stomach drops about 6 inches, and it's like, oh no, how can I get out of this? I'd rather go to gym class and run the marathon rather than have to give a speech. But obviously you did it. You did very well. And I know you talk about someone who is, I guess you want to call it a mentor or author that you really liked, gentleman Zig Ziglar. The older members of our group know that name because we heard it a lot in the early days of our show. Who is he, and what is it about him that helped you on your career?
So, Zig Ziglar, he taught me how to think positive, how to have a positive mental attitude. And if you think about sales, in most sales, you're getting way more no's than yeses. That means that you are being rejected way more times than being accepted. And that negativity starts to build in. And if you don't do something to offset that negativity, it creeps in and affects your life and your career and everything else. Well, Zig was just the perfect guy to read, to listen to at some of the most down parts of my life. When I was just holding on to a string, I would have, like I had Zig's book, See You at the Top. And I remember just holding on to it, going, okay, man, I can do this. I can get there. And one of the greatest moments in my life was when I was running the company and I had Zig Ziglar speak at my convention. And it was so cool. It was so good. It was like, it had come full circle. And it was just a moment in my life.
That really is wonderful. And I'm sure to him, like any good teacher, and that's what he is as an author and someone who instructs people in sales, the greatest reward you can get is to someone to say, thank you. You made my life, my career. You helped me learn a skill. And obviously that's what he did for you. I copied down one of the quotes you have from his book. You said, make being positive a habit and positive results will follow. Do you feel you follow that throughout your life?
I do. I'm a real optimist. I have faith, and I try to look at everything for the positive. That's not necessarily what I do every time, but I sure as heck make the effort, because once I start letting negativity take over, it literally drowns me. It's just, I can't do it. So if I can't do that, then the only alternative I have is get a bunch of positive going all the time.
I'm just going to repeat that saying for our audience. It was make being positive a habit and positive results will follow. And I can't think of anything better, because most of us do want to follow that positive person. We'll go along with them. We want to be nice to them. We'll even try to help them out and maybe mentor or at least reach out or give them some advice. And I think if nothing else from today's show, and we always look for one little line or one takeaway, that might be it. That if we can just stay positive, there's going to be some good results that come into our life. Now, you mentioned before about sales, and again, this is new to all of us. We're not salespeople, but you say that the person who speaks first loses when you get to the end of a sale. Can you talk about that for our audience? Because that's something most of us don't know about.
Unfortunately, it's an old saying in sales. I personally don't like the saying, because it means that the person buying, if you sell that person and he speaks first, you say your closing line and then they speak first, then the pressure is then on them, and therefore they usually will buy the product that you're trying to sell. The problem with that line is that makes it sound like they lose. And in reality, if you're selling a product that you believe in, with a company that you believe in, then it should be that everybody wins. And that's the way I prefer to look at the sale. But it is that pressure builds up. That's why I was talking about those moments that it really is a matter of seconds, but sometimes it seems like it's like 5 minutes where nobody's speaking, and it's just a crock pot. It's just that pressure building and building, and finally somebody goes, "I give,"
But it's so true. When you're a master salesman, and for you to put that there, now a lot of us are alert to it, and if we're on the sales end, we know we better not be the first one to speak.
You got it. Exactly.
Keep our mouths shut. Now,
you want to buy the product, of course.
Roger, at this point in the show, I want our listeners to know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Roger Smith. His book is The Most Unlikely Leader. And Roger, we're going to ask you where we can get the book and if there's a website where we can find out more information.
Yes. You can go to rogersmith.me, and there's a link to order the book. There's also links to my social media and my bio and just about everything. And
that's rogersmith.me because that's unusual. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
rogersmith.me.
Okay, and we'll give that to our audience as we always do a couple more times during the show. So if you didn't get it down, just grab something that you can write with, and Roger will tell us that information again in a few minutes. Roger, one of the things I noticed in going through your book, The Most Unlikely Leader, way before your time, you broke down sales the way, I'm going to use a baseball analogy, a baseball team breaks down pitches and where they place their fielders in the field and exit velocity. In other words, they actually break everything down to metrics. And you did the same thing about closing a sale. Am I basically correct?
Yes. I mean, I think that when we talk about the close and talk about closing the sale, I think that we spend a little bit too much time talking about the close itself, when there's a lot of things that build up to the close. And so I would talk about certain things where the first thing is about building rapport. If I want you to buy from me, Bill, then I need for you to trust me. In the type of sales that I was in, we had maybe 45 minutes, an hour in a home. So I had very short time to build rapport, to build trust. And I would do that by looking at whatever you were displaying that you were proud of. Because if there was something you were proud of that I could relate, it could be the bowling trophy on the wall. It could be several different things. But whatever it is, I'm going to look for whatever's there, and I'm going to get you to talk in a conversation about the things that you're proud of. So we start to build the rapport. I also, it's important, the appearance that you have. For example, my market was the union market, and I was a union member. So I was coming in there as one union brother to another. If I came in there in a suit and a tie, then I wouldn't have that relationship. So I had to dress accordingly to have it. I had to have the rapport. I had to have the appearance, and I needed to take a little bit of control in the room. I needed to get them doing things for me, because in the end, I wanted the wife in most cases who was going to pick up the checkbook and write a check to me. So I would ask her for a drink of water, for something that creates physical movement that would then lead to later on, hopefully, that we'd be able to make the sale and that they would benefit from it. The point of insurance was, or this is life insurance, was that they'd have it for their life and they would need it at the time of their death. And that was the point. It wasn't like buy it, drop it. It was buy it and keep it.
And that's what I was alluding to. And I was so impressed going through your book because you picked up a lot of these little things. Like you said, the union people probably didn't dress with a tie to go to work every day like a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, professions where you're going to an office. They're out there getting their hands dirty, doing hard, laborious work. And you wanted to show you were similar to them. You picked up what their habits were, whether they were a bowler, a golfer, a tennis player, or if they like to take a rifle out and shoot. And you identified with them. And basically that brings out friendship with all of us. I feel more comfortable with someone who roots for the home team, whoever that is. And we're all, if we get talking about it, initially I start out as your friend, and then before you know it, I'm buying insurance or a car or whatever it is you're selling. So we're all together. Now, did it make it harder? Insurance is known to have a very high turnover. And how did you handle that? Because you were going out with agents. I know you mentioned that in the book, and you could bring someone in, you spend a couple of weeks training them and they're gone.
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one, Bill. It is frustrating, and you got to keep a positive mental attitude once again. But it's hard, especially if you think that at that time, we were mostly in the homes in the evening, so you weren't around your family. It was strictly commission, So there's a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of rejection. And because of all those things, you had a lot of turnover. So in trying to build an agency and build a group of salespeople, it did get frustrating. When you kind of put your heart and soul into somebody and they leave. But on the other hand, it was so rewarding when you put your heart and soul into somebody and they make it and you see their life change and you see they're able to change their lifestyle and all of that. So it definitely more frustrating than positive, but definitely they're positive.
And now, while they're great rewards, as you said, you're going to homes when the people are literally at home, which means it's usually someone else's off time. Might be the night, might be the weekend, it might be late afternoon when people are getting home from school or wrapping up the day. And you're going to be in the home then, which makes the home life difficult for you. Did that impinge on your personal life?
I did. Yes. Yeah, I did. Now when I go out and I talk at some of these sales offices, I talk about this balance, about finding balance with your family and be present. When you're working, be present in your work. When you're with your family, be present with your family. In your spiritual, be present in your spiritual. I think that's really important, that balance of life, because I did not have it, and definitely certain aspects suffered as it shows in the book.
When you went out with people, and I noticed, in fact, I marked this down. I thought it was very smart of you. If things weren't going well, you would actually find a reason to change the room you were in, or ask for a cup of coffee, or look out the window and tell them the flower garden looked beautiful. Why did you do that, and how does that enhance your sales ability?
Well, I think, once again, creating movement allows me to take control in the home. And so I can have the rapport, but if I don't have control in that home, then in most cases, they will control me out of their home. So just even moving people around the kitchen table, me saying, listen, you mind if I sit over here and you guys sit over here, and actually wait till everybody's sat and then do that, so that you start to control movement within the room, which hopefully you then at the end control what's happening in the sale.
And it's amazing to me how well you knew your audience, meaning the prospect that you're dealing with, and obviously your product, because you knew sometimes you had to change the environment. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't leading to good results, or the people were irritable or whatever. Obviously, if things aren't going well, change something, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah, I think, Bill, in the beginning, because I was just so bad at it, while other salespeople may be going on 4 appointments a day, I was going on 10 appointments a day. I had to work harder at it to get better at it. And I think that by doing that, I was able to tell this. I was able to create a rapport. I was able to kind of figure out what was going on in that home and be able to move around those things.
Roger, once again, I want our audience to know, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Our guest today is Roger Smith. He's the author of The Most Unlikely Leader. And Roger, would you tell us, one, where we can get the book, and if there's a website where we can learn more about it?
Yes. So you can get the book on my website. It's at rogersmith.me, and that'll take you to where you can either order directly from the publisher or you can pre-order from Amazon. And actually, by the time this comes out, it'll be on Amazon.
Now, Roger, you worked your way up. We're talking about how you handled your own prospects as an insurance salesperson, but you literally worked your way up through the office, I guess, every step in the ladder till you got to CEO. What is the secret of retaining good people? As you moved up the line, did you find out any secrets that you can pass on to us, whether we're the lawyer boss or the dentist or the accountant?
Right. So here's what I think. I think that if you are a leader, if you are leading people, so it doesn't matter what profession, it doesn't even matter if we're talking about in your family, but if you're leading, then you have to have influence. And in order to gain influence, there's two main things that has to happen. Number one is I have to get results. They don't have to be huge results, but I have to get positive results. If I say to you, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this, but it doesn't produce positive results, then you're not going to follow me. So first I have to get results. But the second thing is you really need to know that I care about you, that I care about your success, that I care about your family's success, that I care about you, not because it makes me look good, but because I genuinely care about you. And if you can get results and genuinely care about people, they will follow you in whatever direction that you're going to take them, because there'll be trust and there'll be respect.
Roger, I noticed you mentioned never ask a question that could have a yes or no answer. And, that must be a good one, the way you're laughing. So tell us why a good salesperson wants to stay away from that.
You are really stuck on my sales techniques.
I went through the book. I underlined, I marked it all up because I was very impressed by it. But I want to learn from the master.
Listen, I learned this from my stepfather. He was the best. And, he's the one that taught me that if you're going to ask a question, you want to know the answer. Right? So I don't want to ask you a question that is either yes or no. I want to ask you a question that is assumptive and that's either or. So, is it, do you want the $10 a week plan or do you want the $12 a week plan? Or do you want the red shoes or do you want the yellow shoes? It's not like you're going to tell me I want no shoes. You tend to answer me on either one of what I'm assuming you're going to buy. So
you just go right into the assumption that I'm going to buy whatever product you're selling, whether it's spices, insurance, or cars. And as a salesperson, that's great. And also, I think it's probably some of the tricks trial lawyers use when they're talking to a jury, because they're just assuming that jury is going to agree with them. And by assuming, the jury does start to take their side. And of course, that's what a good lawyer wants. So before the show, I mentioned to you, I said, have a book handy, because there was a list, I think it was on page 65 in your book. And you probably know it by heart, but it's 5 reasons why people reject insurance. And again, you had these down. You knew exactly what they were even before the people did. So you could have a comeback to them and overcome them. But could you give us an example and tell us what those 5 reasons are?
Yeah. So number one would be they can't afford it. They just don't have the money to put out for life insurance right now. They want to think it over. Ours was actually a very small premium. So ours was a one call close. It's not like you went back there 2 or 3 times. It was, here's what the product is. It was very simple. It was a whole life policy, little term. it was a very simple sale. So, I want to think it over was another one you got. Somebody is always related to somebody who sells insurance. It's like their cousin, their nephew, somebody. So you would get my cousin, my friend sells insurance. They want to check out their other policies before they would buy, a new one. And now's not a good time. So, and from that point, like every other objection that you got was a derivative of those 5. It may change, it may alter a little bit, but the reality of it was those were the 5 that you were dealing with. And if you were able to know and feel comfortable with the rebuttals to these objections, and then remember to close again after you've given the rebuttal, because salespeople, what they do is they give a rebuttal. They give this great explanation, and then they forget to close again. And it's just like left up in the air. So if you can give a logical rebuttal to the objection and then close, you actually had a pretty good chance of walking out with the sale.
I'm so impressed because I don't think doctors know their biology as well as you know the reactions of your audience, your prospects that you're talking to. And I think for our audience listening today, if we all just knew our business this well, whether it's working in landscaping with plants, with animals, or foods in a kitchen, if we knew it as well as you know people, we would all do fantastic and be in a lot better spot. Roger, again, I want our audience to know the book is The Most Unlikely Leader by our guest, Roger Smith. And once again, I'm going to ask you to tell us where we can get the book and that website.
Okay, so it's rogersmith.me, and there'll be a link to Amazon, or a link you can order directly from the publisher. And it's The Most Unlikely Leader, an unbelievable journey from GED to CEO.
I love the way you put that. And really, it's no wonder you wound up as the CEO, because if you know the root work that well, obviously bringing on new agents, working with people. And I know that we could do another whole show just about what took place after your actual sales and moving up the corporate ladder and all the moves you had to make physically into different cities, etc. But we thank you today for giving us all that information. And again, our guest has been Roger Smith, The Most Unlikely Leader. I'd like our audience to know that if you're wrapping up today, we want you to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.